The invitation to my cousin Victoria's wedding had specified black tie optional, but everyone knew it really meant show us what you're worth. I arrived in a simple navy dress I'd owned for 3 years, carrying a modest gift card to their registry. The venue was a restored plantation estate, the kind that cost 6 figures to rent for a weekend. Natalie, you made it. Victoria air kissed me at the entrance, her eyes already scanning past me for more important guests. We weren't sure you'd be able to afford the trip. Wouldn't miss it, I said simply. The estate's grand ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and elaborate floral arrangements that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Ice sculptures shaped like swans slowly melted near the champagne fountain. I found my name at the seating chart exactly where I expected it, table 17 in the far back corner near the kitchen doors. The budget table, as my cousin Emma had called it in the family group chat, thinking I wouldn't see. The table for family members who didn't quite measure up, who needed to be invited but didn't warrant premium placement. My table mates were already seated when I arrived. Great-uncle Harold, who smelled like mothballs and told the same 3 stories on repeat. Second cousin Jennifer, going through her 3rd divorce. Aunt Carol's new boyfriend whose name no one could remember. And my younger cousin David, fresh out of college and already apologizing for not having made it yet. Natalie, David said, brightening when he saw me. Thank God, someone normal. I smiled and took my seat. The centerpiece was smaller than those at the front tables, the flowers slightly less fresh. Our champagne was Prosecco. Our table linens had a small stain that someone had tried to flip underneath. From our position I had a perfect view of the important tables. Table 1, closest to the bride and groom's sweetheart table, held Victoria's new in-laws, old money, the kind that whispered rather than shouted. Table 2 was my successful cousins. Emma and her hedge fund manager husband, Marcus and his surgeon wife, Christina, who just made partner at her law firm. Table 3 was my mother's siblings and their accomplished children. Aunt Sarah, who never missed an opportunity to compare her children's achievements to mine. Uncle Richard, whose son had just been promoted to vice president at a Fortune 500 company. Aunt Catherine, whose daughter was a published author with a book tour across 12 states. My mother sat at table 4, positioned so she could see me but with enough distance to maintain plausible deniability about our relationship. She wore her disappointment like a designer handbag, expensive and obvious. The ceremony began at 6. Victoria looked stunning in her custom Vera Wang gown. Her fiancé, Preston, came from a family that owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across the South. The vows were traditional, the kiss was perfectly timed for photographs, and the recession was exactly long enough to allow the important guests to reach the cocktail hour first. At the cocktail hour, I accepted a glass of Prosecco and examined the elaborate appetizer stations. Oyster bar, sushi station, carving station with prime rib, artisanal cheese display that looked like edible architecture. Natalie, sweetheart, Aunt Sarah descended on me, her smile sharp. How wonderful that you could make it. We know how busy you must be with your little consulting work. It's going well, thank you, I said. Still working from home, I assume? Such a modern arrangement. Though I suppose it saves on professional wardrobe costs. Her eyes swept my 3-year-old dress with practiced assessment. Uncle Richard joined us, bourbon in hand. Natalie, haven't seen you since last Christmas. Still doing that independent contractor thing? I am. Brave, he said in a tone that clearly meant foolish. No benefits, no security, no real career track. But I suppose some people prefer flexibility over stability. Cousin Emma approached with her husband Bradley. Oh, Natalie. We were just talking about you. Bradley was asking which family members had real careers versus hobbies. Bradley laughed, the sound like ice clinking in an empty glass. Emma explained you do some kind of freelance work? Consulting, is it? Strategic business consulting, I said quietly. How quaint, Aunt Sarah interjected. My neighbor does something similar. Charges $50 an hour to help small businesses with their social media. Is that the sort of thing you do? Something like that, I replied. My mother appeared, her smile tight. Natalie, darling, why don't you try the shrimp? It's quite good. Though I suppose you're not used to this level of catering. Marcus joined the growing circle, his surgeon wife Priya on his arm. Natalie. Good to see you. Priya and I were just discussing how impressive Victoria's wedding is. Preston's family really knows how to throw an event. This must be quite the experience for you. It's lovely, I said. I imagine it's different from what you're accustomed to, Priya added, her voice dripping with false kindness. But exposure to this level of success must be inspiring. Show you what's possible when you really apply yourself. Christina appeared with a champagne flute. Real champagne, not Prosecco. Speaking of success, did everyone hear about my promotion? Senior partner finally. The firm is giving me the corner office and doubling my support staff. Congratulations erupted around the circle. Aunt Sarah beamed. Uncle Richard raised his bourbon and toast. My mother's face lit up with the kind of pride I'd never seen directed at me. That's real achievement, Uncle Richard declared. Partnership at 39. That's the kind of success we value in this family. Not everyone can reach those heights, Aunt Sarah said, glancing at me. Some people are satisfied with simpler paths. And that's fine too. The world needs all types. The dinner bell chimed, calling us to our assigned tables. I returned to table 17, where Great-Uncle Harold was already halfway through his first story. The salad course arrived. Baby greens with vinaigrette for us, while I could see the front tables receiving arugula with pear, candied walnuts and gorgonzola. From my seat I watched the important tables. Watched Aunt Sarah hold court, describing Christina's promotion in elaborate detail. Watched Emma show off photographs of her new summer home in the Hamptons. Watched Marcus discuss his latest research paper that was under review at a prestigious medical journal. My mother kept glancing back at me, her expression a mixture of pity and embarrassment. The main course arrived. Our table received chicken. Slightly dry, clearly from the first batch that had been sitting too long. The premium tables got filet mignon and lobster tail. The contrast wasn't subtle. They really put us in the overflow section, David muttered. Might as well have seated us in the parking lot. After dinner the toasts began. Victoria's father spoke about legacy and family tradition. Preston's father discussed the importance of building wealth across generations. The best man made jokes about Preston's six-figure salary and his collection of luxury watches. Then came the family tributes. Aunt Sarah stood, microphone in hand, and proceeded to list every achievement of every successful family member, lingering especially long on Christina's partnership and Emma's real estate investments. Our family, she concluded, has always valued excellence, ambition, and real measurable success. We're so proud of all our high achievers. Her eyes swept past table 17 like we were furniture. The dancing started. I stayed seated, watching couples fill the floor. Victoria danced with her father, then Preston, then began circulating through the important guests. She didn't make it to the back tables. Emma appeared at my table, slightly drunk, her smile predatory. Natalie, having fun back here in budget seating? She laughed loudly. I told Victoria we should have had a kids' table too, for the family members who haven't quite grown up career-wise. Emma, David said quietly, that's not. Oh, don't be sensitive, Emma waved him off. Natalie knows I'm teasing. We're all family here. Some of us just happen to work harder and aim higher. She gestured vaguely at my dress. But there's dignity in simplicity, right? Not everyone needs designer labels and career prestige. She walked away, laughing at her own wit. Aunt Catherine approached next, her daughter Lauren in tow. Natalie, dear, Lauren just signed a contract for her second book. A major publisher, six-figure advance, book tour across 3 countries. Congratulations, I said to Lauren. Thanks, Lauren said not unkindly. What are you working on these days? Various consulting projects, I said. How nice, Aunt Catherine interjected. Those little freelance gigs. Very flexible, I'm sure. Lauren's schedule is so demanding with her book launches and literary festival appearances, she barely has time for anything else. Real success requires real dedication. My mother joined them, martini in hand. Natalie, are you having a good time? I know this isn't quite your usual environment. It's fine, Mom. I just wish. She trailed off, her eyes emotional. I wish you'd given yourself more opportunities. Look at your cousins. Real careers, real achievements, real respect. When people ask me about my daughter, I have to explain that you're figuring things out at 36. I figured things out just fine, I said calmly. Have you? Aunt Sarah rejoined the conversation. Because from where we're standing, it looks like you've been treading water for years while everyone else moved forward. Uncle Richard appeared with a fresh bourbon. It's not too late, Natalie. You're still young enough to start a real career. I could ask around, see if anyone needs entry-level staff. You'd have to start at the bottom, obviously, but at least it would be legitimate work. I appreciate the offer, I said, but I'm content with my current path. Content, my mother repeated sadly. That's the problem. You're content with mediocrity while your cousins chase excellence. The speeches continued. More toasts, more tributes to success and achievement and the importance of marrying well and building empires and leaving legacies. Each word felt designed to emphasize the divide between the important tables and Table 17. Victoria's new mother-in-law gave a speech about the importance of surrounding yourself with excellence. You become like the 5 people you spend the most time with, she declared. Choose successful people and you'll become successful. Choose mediocrity and well. She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. At 9 o'clock, Victoria announced a special surprise. Preston and I wanted to do something different for our wedding entertainment, she said, her voice amplified through the sound system. We're going to stream the International Business Leadership Awards live. Preston's father is receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award, and we thought it would be wonderful to share this moment with all of you. Applause rippled through the room. Clearly, most of the important guests already knew about this. A massive projection screen descended from the ceiling. The lights dimmed. The awards ceremony livestream began, showing an elegant ballroom in New York City filled with people in formal attire. The ceremony opened with a montage of past winners. CEOs of major corporations. Founders of billion-dollar startups. Leaders who'd revolutionized entire industries. The host appeared, a famous business journalist whose books I'd actually read. Welcome to the 25th Annual International Business Leadership Awards, she announced. Tonight we honor the visionaries, the innovators, the leaders who have fundamentally transformed how we do business in the modern era. At Victoria's wedding, the front tables watched with interest. Table 17 was mostly ignored. Great-Uncle Harold had fallen asleep and Jennifer was scrolling through her phone. The ceremony began with the smaller categories. Innovation in technology. Breakthrough Startup of the Year. Excellence in Sustainable Business Practices. Each winner gave a brief speech, accepted their crystal trophy and exited. Aunt Sarah turned in her seat to look at me. Even from this distance I could see her smirk. This was exactly her kind of event. Celebrating the type of success she valued, the type she wished I'd achieved. The host returned to the podium. And now we come to our major awards of the evening. First, the Global Impact Award, presented to the individual whose business has created the most significant positive change across multiple countries and industries. The screen showed images of hospitals, schools, clean water facilities, manufacturing plants, community centers. All funded and built by the award winners' corporation and charitable foundation. This year's recipient, the host continued, has built an enterprise that operates in 37 countries, employs over 60,000 people, and has pioneered breakthrough approaches to ethical supply chain management, sustainable manufacturing and corporate social responsibility. More images flashed. Factories with solar panels, employee programs providing free education and healthcare, community investment initiatives, environmental restoration projects. Their work in transforming traditional consulting into a model that empowers local businesses in developing economies has created over 200,000 jobs globally. Their charitable foundation has donated $1.8 billion to education and infrastructure development. Victoria's guests were watching with polite interest. This wasn't Preston's father. His award was later. But it was impressive enough to maintain attention. Ladies and gentlemen, the host said, the Global Impact Award goes to Natalie Morrison, founder and CEO of Morrison Global Strategic Consulting. The wedding reception erupted in confused whispers. On the screen I appeared, walking onto the stage in New York City in a custom-tailored black gown, hair professionally styled, diamonds at my throat and ears. I looked nothing like the simple woman in the navy dress sitting at table 17. That can't be, Aunt Sarah started. Is that our Natalie? Emma's voice carried across the room. My mother's martini glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. On screen, I accepted the crystal trophy, shook hands with the host and approached the microphone. Thank you. My voice echoed through both the New York ballroom and Victoria's wedding reception. When I started Morrison Global 13 years ago, people thought I was crazy to leave a stable corporate job to pursue independent consulting. My family was particularly concerned. Nervous laughter rippled through both audiences. I was told I was choosing a hobby over a real career, I continued. That freelancing was just a temporary phase. That I needed security, benefits, a traditional path. But I saw something different. I saw an opportunity to revolutionize how businesses approach strategic consulting, particularly in emerging markets. The screen showed graphs of exponential growth, maps of global expansion, photographs of the lives changed by Morrison Global's work. Today, Morrison Global operates in 37 countries with offices in 23 major cities. We employ 63,000 consultants, analysts, and support staff. Last year, our revenue exceeded $4.3 billion, with 40% going directly back into our charitable foundation and employee profit-sharing programs. At Victoria's wedding, the silence was absolute. I built this company quietly, I said from the screen. I've never sought publicity or recognition. I've maintained a simple personal life, working from a home office, avoiding the trappings of wealth that many associate with business success. Because the success was never about me, it was about proving that business can be a force for genuine good in the world. The host returned to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Natalie Morrison has been called the most influential management consultant of her generation. Her client list includes 17 Fortune 500 companies, 12 national governments, and the United Nations Development Program. Her personal net worth is estimated at $3.8 billion, making her one of the youngest self-made female billionaires globally. Emma made a choking sound. The live stream continued with my acceptance speech. I discussed Morrison Global's expansion plans, our commitment to ethical business practices, our goal of creating 1 million jobs globally by 2030. I thanked my team, my mentors, the clients who trusted us. I didn't mention my family. Didn't thank them. Didn't acknowledge their existence. The camera panned across the New York audience. I could see the CEOs I'd consulted for, government ministers I'd advised, fellow entrepreneurs I'd collaborated with. An audience of actual peers, actual colleagues, actual respect. Victoria's wedding reception remained frozen. On screen, I finished my speech to thunderous applause and exited the stage. The awards ceremony continued. Preston's father received his Lifetime Achievement Award for building a successful regional car dealership chain. Respectable, certainly. But after my segment, it felt almost quaint. Local success versus global impact. Millions versus billions. When the live stream ended and the lights came back up, Victoria stood at her microphone, face pale. I didn't know, she stammered. Natalie never said. Every head in the room turned to look at table 17. Great-Uncle Harold had woken up during the commotion. Did I miss something? He asked. The silence broke like a dam bursting. Aunt Sarah stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly. This is impossible. Natalie, you're a freelance consultant. You work from home. You drive a 10-year-old Honda. I do, I confirmed calmly. I like that car. It's reliable. My mother was crying, actual tears streaming down her face. You let us think. All these years, we thought you were struggling. You assumed I was struggling, I corrected. I never said I was. Emma appeared at my table, her face a mottled red. You own a multi-billion-dollar company? You employ 60,000 people? And you sat here while I mocked you? You seem to be enjoying yourself, I said. Uncle Richard's bourbon sat forgotten as he pulled out his phone, frantically Googling. Morrison Global Strategic Consulting. Oh my God. Oh my God. Real. Natalie, you're on the Forbes billionaire list. Number 743. You're worth $3.8 billion. The estimate is slightly high, I said. It's closer to 3.6 after the latest charitable donations. Christina had gone pale. You work with Fortune 500 companies. Your client list. These are the biggest corporations in the world. They have interesting challenges, I said. I enjoy solving complex problems. Marcus was reading from his phone, his voice shaking. You advised the UN on their sustainable development programs. You consulted for the World Bank. Natalie, you've met with heads of state. 12 heads of state, I clarified. 13 if you count the Secretary General, though technically that's not a state. Aunt Catherine looked like she might faint. Lauren's book deal, her 6-figure advance, is wonderful, I said sincerely. Writing is hard work. She should be proud. But you just won an award in front of thousands of business leaders, Aunt Catherine continued. You're wearing a gown that probably costs more than my 3-year-old navy dress? I suggested. Yes. I have appropriate attire for business functions. I just don't wear it to family events. Victoria had descended from the head table, Preston trailing behind her looking confused. Natalie, I seated you at table 17. I put you in the back, near the kitchen. I noticed, I said. But you're more successful than everyone here combined. You should have been at the head table. You should have been honored, featured, celebrated. Should I have been? I asked. What changed between 6 hours ago and now? We didn't know. Victoria protested. Exactly, I said. You didn't know. You assumed. You judged. You seated me according to what you perceived as my value, not according to my relationship to you. My mother was at my side now, gripping my arm. Why didn't you tell us? Why did you let us treat you like a failure? Did I let you treat me like a failure? I asked gently. Or did you choose to treat me that way regardless of my actual success? Priya spoke up, her surgeon's composure cracking. But your LinkedIn profile says independent consultant. No company name, no details. I value privacy, I said. Morrison Global's clients know who I am. That's sufficient. Emma was still reading from her phone, her voice rising with each sentence. You've written 3 books on strategic business transformation. You lecture at Harvard Business School. You're on the board of directors for 6 major corporations. Natalie, you're famous. In business circles, you're genuinely famous. In certain circles, I agreed. I prefer to keep my professional life separate from my personal life. Bradley, Emma's husband, had found a video of me delivering a keynote at a major conference. Thousands in attendance, standing ovation, genuine reverence from an audience of business leaders. You command speaking fees of $250,000 per event, he read. Your consulting rate is $5,000 per hour. Your last book was a New York Times bestseller in the business category. It did well, I acknowledged. Uncle Richard's hand was shaking as he showed me his phone. I offered you an entry-level position. I suggested you start at the bottom of someone's company. I told you it wasn't too late to build a real career. You did, I said. I'm a regional sales manager making $90,000 a year, he continued, his voice breaking. And I offered you career advice. You could buy my company 1,000 times over. I could, I agreed. But I wouldn't. It's not strategically aligned with Morrison Global's core competencies. Aunt Sarah sank into a chair at my table, uninvited. When you said you were a consultant, I thought you helped small businesses with their Facebook pages or something. I understand the confusion, I said. The word, consultant, covers a broad range of services. Lauren appeared, her face stricken. I bragged about my book tour. I talked about traveling to 3 countries like it was impressive. You operate in 37 countries. Your book tour is impressive, I said kindly. Different types of success aren't competitive. You're bringing stories to readers. That matters. But you brought jobs to hundreds of thousands of people, Lauren said. You built hospitals and schools. You changed lives on a massive scale. Different purposes, I said. Both valuable. Marcus was still scrolling. Your charitable foundation donated $720 million last year alone. That's more than most corporations earn in profit. We had a good year, I said. Victoria had started crying, her perfect makeup running. I mocked you about not being able to afford the trip. I seated you in the worst spot. I basically said you weren't important enough to matter at my wedding. You did say that, I confirmed. And the whole time you could have bought this entire estate. You could have paid for my wedding 100 times over without noticing. Probably closer to 200 times, I said. But yes. Preston spoke for the first time. My father is receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award for building 17 car dealerships across 4 states. He was so proud. He's worked his whole life for this recognition. He should be proud, I said. Building a successful regional business is an achievement. But you just won the Global Impact Award, Preston continued. The actual Global Impact Award. They called you one of the most influential business leaders in the world. They were very kind, I said. Emma's voice was a whisper. I called your career simple. I said you were the budget table success story. I made jokes about you not having grown up career-wise. You did, I said calmly. And you just sat there. You didn't defend yourself. You didn't tell us we were wrong. Would it have mattered? I asked. If I'd said, actually, I run a multi-billion-dollar global consulting firm, would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was delusional or lying? Silence. That's what I thought, I said. My mother was openly sobbing now. I told you I was embarrassed when people asked about you. I said you'd chosen mediocrity. I wished you'd given yourself more opportunities. I remember, I said. But you've accomplished more than all of us combined. More than I ever dreamed possible. Different dreams, I said. I wasn't trying to compete with anyone. Christina's phone showed my Wikipedia page. Your company has won 17 major industry awards. You've been profiled in The Economist, Fortune, Forbes, Bloomberg. There's a case study about your business model taught at 8 business schools. 9 now, I corrected. Stanford just added 1. Aunt Catherine was reading from an article. This profile says you're known for your humility and privacy. That you refuse most interview requests. That you live modestly despite your wealth because you believe business success should be measured by impact, not personal luxury. That's accurate, I said. So you deliberately hid this from us, Emma said, her voice hardening. You let us humiliate ourselves. Did I asked. Or did you humiliate yourselves by making assumptions, passing judgment, and treating someone poorly based on perceived status rather than human decency? Uncle Richard stood up, trying to recover some dignity. Natalie, I think we all said some things tonight that we regret. In our defense, you were very secretive about your success. Was I secretive? I asked. Or was I simply living my life while you all created narratives about my failure without ever asking a single genuine question about my work? That's not fair, Aunt Sarah protested. Isn't it? In 13 years, how many of you ever asked me about my business? Not in a mocking way, not in a pitying way, but with genuine interest. No one answered. When I mentioned consulting projects, who asked what kind of projects? When I talked about traveling for work, who asked where I was going or why? When I worked from home, who considered that maybe I was running something significant rather than just freelancing? More silence. You all created a story about my life based on your assumptions and never questioned whether it was true. You seated me at the budget table literally and figuratively, without ever considering that maybe I didn't fit your narrative. Victoria's voice was small. What do we do now? I stood, smoothing my simple navy dress. You do whatever you want. You can feel embarrassed, ashamed, angry. You can reach out, apologize, try to rebuild relationships. You can pretend tonight didn't happen. That's your choice. And what will you do? My mother asked desperately. The same thing I've been doing, I said. Tomorrow, I'm flying to Geneva for meetings with the International Trade Organization. Next week, I'm in Singapore opening our new Southeast Asian headquarters. I have a company to run, clients to serve, employees counting on me. Will we see you again? Aunt Sarah asked, her voice cracking. I don't know, I said honestly. I need to think about whether I want to continue subjecting myself to judgment and mockery from people who should have valued me regardless of my bank account. I picked up my small purse. Congratulations on your wedding, Victoria. I hope you and Preston have a wonderful life together. Natalie, wait, multiple voices called out. But I was already walking toward the exit, my simple dress seeming almost regal now, my modest appearance transformed by the weight of truth. Behind me I heard Emma say, "She's really leaving. She's actually just leaving." What did you expect? David said quietly. You treated her like garbage. Now you know she's important and suddenly you care. But she's been the same person all along. I smiled at David's words but didn't turn back. Outside I called my driver. Yes, I had a driver, but he waited discreetly in an unmarked sedan because I valued privacy. Ready to go, Ms. Morrison? He asked. Ready, James, I said. My phone started buzzing before we even left the parking lot. Text messages flooding in. Apologies, explanations, desperate attempts at reconciliation. I silenced them all. Instead, I called my executive assistant. Margaret, the Geneva meetings. Can you move them to Monday? I'd like an extra day to prepare. Of course, Ms. Morrison. I'll notify the delegation. By the way, the awards ceremony went beautifully. You're trending on business Twitter. Wonderful, I said drily. That's exactly the attention I wanted. She laughed. You knew accepting the award publicly would get attention. Was it worth it? I thought about my family's faces. The shock, the shame, the sudden desperate need for my approval. Yes, I said. It was worth it. We drove through the night, away from the plantation estate and its illusion of importance, away from the people who'd valued appearance over substance, away from the family who'd needed external validation to see my worth. My phone buzzed again. My mother. Please call me. I love you. I'm so sorry. I was so wrong about everything. Rebecca, I don't even know what to say. I'm ashamed. Can we talk? Uncle Richard, I was completely out of line. You deserved respect regardless of your career. Please forgive me. Even Emma, you have every right to hate us. I hate myself right now. What I said was unforgivable. I put the phone away and watched the city lights blur past the window. They were sorry now. Now that they knew. Now that they'd seen the proof on a screen, heard it from an authoritative third party, seen the numbers and awards and validation from people they considered important. But would they have been sorry if I'd remained what they thought I was? A struggling freelancer with a simple life and modest means? I already knew the answer. Tomorrow I would wake up in my comfortable, unpretentious apartment. I would review the Geneva presentation materials. I would check in with my executive team across 6 time zones. I would approve the latest charitable foundation grants. I would be exactly who I'd always been. A person who measured worth by impact rather than appearance, by character rather than status, by genuine accomplishment rather than superficial markers of success. And I would do it all without needing their validation, their approval, or their belated respect. The road ahead was dark and quiet, but I'd never felt more clear about my path. Some families love you for who you are. Others need a live stream and a global award to even see you. I'd finally learned which kind of family I had. And more importantly, I'd learned I didn't need them to know my worth. I'd always known it myself.